of the Kalam Cosmological Argument. Now, the Kalam Cosmological Argument is one tool in our bag on sharing our faith with someone. Let's just say that someone doesn't want to hear about the Bible, and they're not ready to talk about that yet. Of course, we could use the Bible because the Bible is like a double-edged sword. And it's my opinion that you really don't need to defend it because it's alive and powerful. And if you're in its way, it's going to cut you. Sort of like the Marines, they don't negotiate with the enemy on, hey, I'm going to prove to you that this is a real gun. They just use the weapons. With believers, when we use the Word of God, we don't really need to spend so much time and energy worrying about whether or not it's true, or whether or not the person in front of us accepts it as true, because it is true. But sometimes we can use tools like this to show people that they really haven't thought much about it, and that their views of Christians as stupid people are invalid claims. So this is just one argument. It goes like this. It's really simple. It's only 3 parts. And what's good about it is, at each point in a Kalam cosmological argument, you're putting the ball in their court. And you're making them decide. And if they're being logical and rational and reasonable, then they will end up right here. They will end up, I'm going to move my thing here so that people can see it online. They will end up believing that the universe had a beginning, and that was caused by a personal being. So, 3 parts. The universe had a beginning. That beginning of the universe was caused, and the cause of it was personal. That means a person caused this beginning to happen. So at each point, you say, we're not going to move on to the next point until we establish, until you tell me about the universe either had a beginning or it didn't. That beginning was either caused or it wasn't caused, and that cause was either personal or impersonal, or not personal at all. And we can prove, we're going to spend most of our time here establishing that the universe had a beginning, and then I'm going to have 3 points on the beginning, and then the rest is downhill. It's easiest to show that beginnings are caused and that causes are personal. So the first thing is, if the universe had been around forever, that's the claim, that the universe has been around for an infinite amount of time, then that means, if we're right here in 2008, that means an infinite past would mean that this line, this timeline, goes back forever and ever and ever. And what we're going to do is establish that that's impossible. I'm going to do that with the problem of infinity. Now, the problem of infinity is that an infinite amount of time, that's this line, an infinite amount of time could never be crossed, and we could never reach 2008 if the past was infinite. Okay? Here we go. I will illustrate this by showing this set of iPods. Now in math, a subset is always smaller than the whole set. A subset is always smaller than the whole set. So the subset of red iPods is always smaller than the whole set of 6 iPods. The problem with infinity is that, let's just say I had an infinite amount of iPods. And everybody in here had iPods, and people were lining up at the door, and I was giving them away, right? And whoever gives away the most, let's just say 2 rooms are full of infinite amount of iPods, and well, this side has red iPods, this side has blue iPods, and whoever gives away the most, the fastest, wins. Well, no matter how many blue iPods were given away, the red iPods, even if they gave away 1, it's still equal, because with infinity you can't cross it. Okay, problem infinity still not clear. I'll show you with another example. There's a problem with an infinite past because of the problem of infinity. Let's just say we have here an illustration of Fast and Furious, Pastor Freddy's race against Ron, the deacon. Okay? Let's say that Freddy's car is racing Ron's game machine here, and the only problem is Freddy has a quarter-mile race to go. Okay, quarter-mile. We can do that at Freddy. 14 seconds, 13. Okay?
Stop, yeah.
And Ron will start at the same time, but guess what? His starting line is an infinite amount of time that way. Who's going to win the race? Well, let's see what happens. Freddy won, and Ron can't even get started. He can't even get started because if the past is infinite, it's like trying to jump out of a bottomless pit. You can't even begin. And so the point of this illustration is, if the past were an infinite amount of time that way, then we could never reach the death of Christ. After that, we could never reach 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because time is chronological. And in order to get to number 10, you have to start at 0. You catch my drift? That's the main point about all these illustrations of the problem of infinity. The past must be finite in order for us to be where we are right now. And I hope that would just be so clear. You would think that someone would say, wow, that's a very valid point. The universe had to have a beginning. But people write books on this. If you read the Atheist Debater's Handbook, it talks about maybe the universe just popped into existence without nothing, and other people believe that it's just been around forever. And I'm wondering, what are people willing to do to avoid the notion of theism? Or at what point are we willing to sacrifice our intelligence to say that God doesn't exist? You have to dance around to really get around these issues. The universe had a beginning, and I hope that's clear. Secondly, or here's another proof of the beginning of the universe, the Big Bang Theory. I don't have time to go into this into depth, but if you Google it, the Big Bang Theory, Edwin Hubble did this study in redshift, light in distant galaxies, and they saw that the universe is expanding. And if you look on this, on Wikipedia, it explains it, but basically the universe started from this point and is expanding. And that's what science is discovering. Another way of establishing the beginning of the universe is the second law of thermodynamics. Such a big word, sometimes I have trouble saying it, but in the simplest of terms, the second law of thermodynamics says that everything is cooling down. For instance, a coffee, if I have a Starbucks coffee cup here, the second law says that will cool down over time. So what we see with the universe is that it's cooling down and running out of energy. Proof that the universe had a beginning, because if we were around forever, we would have cooled off already. So we've showed that the universe had to have a beginning because of the problem of infinity, and because of the Big Bang Theory, which is good. The Big Bang Theory proves that there's a beginning. I'm not sure if the Big Bang is true, but the Big Bang is the most widely accepted fact in science for the hypothesis of a beginning of a universe. And that points to a Big Banger. Big Bang implies a Big Banger. Also, second law of thermodynamics, the world is winding down. Okay. Now, we established that the universe had a beginning. Now, that beginning had to be caused. And if you look on the internet also, or any textbook, there's the law of cause and effect. Or it's called causality. Did anybody take physics in here? I never did. I never made it that far, but it's a very simple concept that causes make effects, or effects are caused. And it's always true. It's a fundamental to natural science, especially in physics, and has a basis in logic, and also is studied from the perspectives of philosophy, computer science, and statistics. Cause and effect. Nothing happens without something causing it to happen. There's no effect that happens that wasn't caused. Anything that happens is caused. Now, whenever you have causes, for instance, there's two types of causes. Two kinds of causes. There are physical causes, like a wind blowing in the air, like a bowling ball pin falling down, and a baseball flying through the air. Those are all results, those are all effects of the cause of someone hitting that baseball, someone throwing that bowling ball, or someone blowing that leaf. And so, the universe had to have a beginning. That beginning had to have been caused, because all events have causes, and that cause must be personal, because these events happen, they have to happen with previous events, but in order for someone to generate an event out of nothing, they have to be a person. For instance, if my guitar were to fall, it would be because someone knocked it down. But if I were to just move it with my free will, then I can generate that out of nothing. Conclusion? Whatever caused the first event had to be a person who was outside of time, which is supernatural.